If a nation must choose between clean air and employment, is it truly free? In July 2025, beneath the scorching Sahel sun, Burkina Faso did what no West African nation had dared to do. President Ibrahim signed a landmark decree banning all non-biodegradable plastic bags and packaging, no exceptions. By nightfall, over 200 factories and shops had gone silent. 10,000 jobs vanished in an instant. So did the stench. For the first time in a generation, the air over Ouagadougou smelled not of burning waste, but of coming rain. This was not just a policy. It was an act of liberation. An exorcism of what had long been accepted as convenient, but never clean. The world watched, some in awe, others in outrage, did not wait for approval, not from the United Nations. It's not from Brussels. It's not from the donor class. He didn't wait for feasibility studies or press conferences, because it wasn't shaped by boardrooms. It was raised in the dust that turns to poison when drains are clogged with plastic. Dust that buries children who drank from toxic streams. As president, he didn't bring promises. He brought a broom. He walked barefoot through markets. He listened not to lobbyists, but to women coughing behind food stalls. He joined sanitation workers scraping bags from sewer mouths and asked not why they were dirty, but why the nation tolerated it. Then came the decision. A total, unapologetic ban. It's no halfway measures, no symbolic gestures, no exceptions for profit. Footage of closed factories, silent machines, polluted rivers. Factories fell quiet. Investors recoiled. Critics warned of collapse. It stood firm. I would rather lose money than lose my people. There was no ceremony, no applause. Just a pen, a decree, and a reckoning. The most radical environmental law in African history had been signed. But this change was not painless. It echoed not just in government offices, but in alleyways and villages. In Bobo Dioulasso, in Ouagadougou's markets, plastic had been more than packaging. It was a survival tool. It held mangoes. It wrapped school lunches. It protected food under the harsh sun. When the ban came, it didn't feel like policy. It felt like betrayal. Fanta, a 60-year-old grandmother selling roasted corn for nearly 3 decades, handed her last bundle of plastic bags to police and asked, "Then what do I feed them with my fingers?" No one answered, because no one had answered her in 30 years. But something changed. The next day, a group of university students came to Fanta not with authority, but with respect. They brought palm leaves, banana fibers, recycled cloth. They showed her how to wrap, fold, weave. They listened like descendants, and slowly, panic gave way to resilience. Fanta began to teach others. The same corner that once sold corn in plastic became a hub of eco-innovation. Trash became trade. Shame became strength. Fear softened, because change always walks with fear, but so does hope. If you were raised by someone who made something out of nothing, remember her name? Let her legacy speak through your heart, not hashtags. This movement did not begin in a palace. It began in a marketplace. Not through policy, but through women who refused to stop feeding others even as they were starved of support. Not everyone adapted. In Ouagadougou, plastic manufacturers shut down overnight. Machines stopped humming. Payrolls froze. Workers stood outside stunned. Their employers had told them not to worry. These laws, they said, are for Western cameras. Nothing will change. But they forgot one thing was NT performing. He meant every word. Still, those factories didn't close because they had to. They closed because they refused to evolve. They ignored 6 months of preparation, rejected retraining, declined ecological grants. They gambled on impunity and lost. Yet not all chose failure. On the outskirts of Ouagadougou, a young engineer named Yakubaho's father once cleaned French-owned factory floors, had prepared. His team built a biodegradable packaging machine from scrap metal and bamboo. It used local cassava pulp. When the old factories fell silent, Yakuba's furnace lit up. Within weeks, his team supplied eco-bags to 6 markets. They weren't the biggest, but they were ready. This is what African transformation looks like, not in boardrooms, but in young hands, dirty with grease and faith. But the story didn't end with factories. Madu, a 9-year-old boy, once lived in a dump near Fangagorma. He lost his mother to asthma. In a shack just steps from a plastic-choked landfill, He scavenged bags to survive. Black ones were valuable. Green ones were toxic. He knew this not from books but from breathing. When the truck stopped after the ban, his world collapsed. Not because it was beautiful, but because it was familiar. A government worker found him days later and asked why he was still there. "Because this was the only thing that knew my name," he said. She took him to a pilot school part of the green transition. There, Madhu learned how to compost, how to mold packaging from cassava. He touched material that didn't burn his skin. 6 months later, his name was stamped on a biodegradable prototype used in 6 markets. From scavenger to founder, from poison to paper. If you believe a child buried in waste can one day save the planet, type rise. But Madhu's healing wasn't just personal. It mirrored the land. With plastic gone, canals flowed. Rice paddies sprouted again. Birds returned. The air cleared. In Zaniri, an old farmer knelt in awe beside a single green sprout and wept. Not because it was rare, but because it had been impossible for 15 years. And as the land began to breathe, so did the people. President didn't celebrate with fanfare, simply stood before the nation and said, "This was never just about plastic. It was about what we had normalized, how far we had sunk in the name of survival." That ends here. Behind him stood no generals. Only women with palm leaf baskets, men with dirt on their hands, and children who no longer played in trash. This is not just a story of policy. It's a story of dignity, of remembering, of refusing to bury our food, our future, in what once buried us. The cleanest war Africa ever fought left no blood, only roots. Roots of cassava, roots of courage, roots of a people reclaiming their land. This revolution did not wait for permission, and neither should we. If you choose dignity over convenience, if you believe in a future wrapped in memory instead of plastic, share this story. Not to go viral, but to go inward. Let it rise. Let us all rise. Please subscribe the channel.